The doppelganger has been prominent in fiction for years. Most people see finding their doppelganger as a fun activity. Maybe there was someone hundreds of years ago who looked exactly like you. Or maybe there is even someone alive today that looks too similar for it to be mere coincidence. But in mythology, finding your doppelganger was a frightening omen. Seeing your doppelganger meant that sometime very soon, you were going to die. Imagine you just arrived at your old hometown. It has been years since you have seen anyone, and it's great to see them, but unfortunately the reason you are there is to attend your old friend's funeral. But as you talk to all of your old friends, you can't help but feel that something is off. The way that your friend died doesn't quite add up. The way that some of the people around you are acting is very unsettling. And it all starts to make sense once you find out that your friend didn't die in an accident, but that your friend was murdered. The more questions that get answered, the less you actually know. Summertime Render is one of the most gripping anime to come out in recent years, and that is because of the way it handles its narrative. I have always been a sucker for Groundhog Day type stories, and this one turns it up to 100. And 2. Similar to ReZero, this is an anime where the main character is put in a scenario where if he dies, he is moved back to a specific point in time before he had died. But as we come to find out, it isn't exactly the same as other shows. In ReZero, it was like a checkpoint in a video game. As long as Subaru had not progressed too far forward, he would always come back to the exact same point. But in Summertime Render, every time he's sent back, he loses a bit of time. He always starts further ahead than when he originally started jumping back. So you quickly realize that this is actually a race against time. In other scenarios, people get to continuously look at the puzzle laid out before them, and it feels like they have unlimited resets. In those stories, it's usually the character's constantly declining mental state that makes you want them to succeed. But Shinpei knows that he has a limited amount of resets, so he can't afford to make too many mistakes. Each time he resets, he always pushes as far as he can. He always tries to learn as much as possible before he resets, and this creates a very fast-paced narrative which always keeps you on the edge of your seat. Every episode is gripping. Every episode is filled with new information, and the end of every episode feels like a giant cliffhanger that begs you to watch the next one. Let me show you what I mean. Shinpei finally returns to his small hometown, and as soon as he arrives on the island, he is greeted by his childhood friend Mio. Shinpei was raised alongside Mio and her father Alan, but he was also raised alongside the person's funeral he has come to attend, and that person's name is Ushio. So Ushio is not only his childhood friend, but she is practically family. While he is attending her funeral, one of his old friends comes up to him and tells him that he will call him tonight and that he has something very important to tell him. And what he tells him is that Ushio's death was no accident. While most people think that she drowned in an accident while they were playing out in the ocean, his friend noticed rather strange marks around Ushio's neck, which led him to believe that she had been strangled. After the funeral, they all start working at the family restaurant again. It's natural to want to start working to try to take your mind off of the tragedy that just occurred. While they are working, they are told by the town's single police officer that their friend Shiori and her family suddenly disappeared last night. The officer believes that the family just decided to leave and brings up the fact that they had a lot of debt that they might have been trying to run away from. Mio is very upset after hearing this news and runs out of the restaurant, so Shinpei follows her. Mio tells him that she has another theory on why Shiori might have disappeared. Before Ushio died, Mio remembered Shiori talking about how she had seen a girl who looked exactly like herself. Ever since that day, whenever she left the house, whether she was on her way to school or even in school, she constantly felt like she was being watched. That is when a random passerby asks, "Isn't what you were talking about a shadow?" See, just like in our world, in the world of Summertime Render, there is this mythology that is passed around about creatures called shadows that on the surface are very similar to doppelgangers for us. They take on the original shape, and seeing your shadow or doppelganger means that very soon you will meet your demise. That is because, according to the legends, once a shadow has copied you, it will now stop at nothing to kill you. And once it does, it pretends to be whoever it killed. But this is just a superstition, right? Like Slenderman or Chris Hemsworth. I mean, come on, there is no one that hot and buff. Mio tells Shinpei about one day when she was on a beach picking up trash with Ushio, and she told Mio to look at someone else on the beach. What Mio saw when she looked up was an exact copy of Ushio. And 3 days after this incident, Ushio was dead. They learn that a lot of people would go to Hiroko Shrine in an attempt to cleanse the shadow sickness, which is what they called it when someone would see their doppelganger. So they head up to the shrine to learn anything that they can about shadow sickness. When they arrive, Mio sees something moving in the foliage and says that she swears that she just saw Shiori. They run through the forest to try to find her, but instead they stumble upon a woman who has been shot. The woman pulls Shinpei in and says, "Listen closely to me. The woman is shot and killed as she tried to get out her final words. Shinpei looks over to see who the shooter was, and his face warps in horror as he comes to the realization that the shooter was Mio. But not only was the shooter Mio was holding Mio hostage, and then proceeds to shoot Mio, and she finishes everything off by killing Shinpei. And that is how this anime comes to an end. Until Shinpei wakes up in Anime Titty. So that was the insane cliffhanger that you were left with after just one episode. And this is how it feels after every single episode. You are constantly fed new information that causes new questions. This very fast-paced what lies around the next corner, let's uncover the next clue gang style of storytelling is very entertaining to watch. The animation is gorgeous. There is a stark contrast between the island's beauty and the horrific creatures called shadows. If anything has interested you so far, then I highly recommend that you watch this anime, because there is some crazy shit going on right now. And I don't want to talk about any of it until the show is finished airing, because I don't want to even potentially rob someone of the experience before they have had a chance to watch it. There's at least one twist every single episode. It's insane. I cannot wait to see this anime's conclusion. Please give Summertime Render a try if you haven't already. And thank you very much for watching the entire video. If you did, I want to thank these lovely people, our patrons. Why do I keep saying it like that? Thank you so much, guys, for the support. And just remember, you don't have to believe in yourself. Believe in me. Believe in the me that believes in you. And I'll see you in the next video.